say. Hello, welcome to Call the Sam podcast. I'm your host. My name is Sam. Before we get into it, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends to hit the subscribe button. To your grandma, to your grandpa, to your aunties, everybody to hit that subscribe button. Today's guests are two dynamic individuals, buff individuals. We'll get into that later. But let us begin. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So why is this important? I'll tell you why. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association, men suffering from mental illnesses are less likely to receive mental health treatment or diagnosis. And part of this is due to the stigma about a man speaking out about it, deeming it as a weakness. Ronnie Sampat is an activist. He birthed at fitbanker.co. He is also a digital creator. He inspires and empowers busy people to transform their life through optimal health, adventure, leadership, and entrepreneurship. He's also an actor. You can catch him on Bollywood, Z World. He is there doing it all. Ronnie Sampat, welcome.
Thank you for having me back, and big kudos.
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure.
8 months strong,
Thank
running,
you. Oh,
and being a real contribution to social media with value-adding content with real human beings.
Yes, that's what I love. John Candy, who's also just being the person he can be, is a personal trainer and physical therapy wellness manager, promoting lifestyles which benefit active lifestyles to grow healthier habits and confidence. And ladies, guess what? He is very single. Very, very single.
Ready.
Single, ready to mingle. Comment below, hit us up in the DMs, let us know. We'll take you out on a coffee date. Sponsored by Call Sam. Let us begin. How are you, John?
No, I'm good. I'm really honored to be here. I've been watching your work as well.
Thank you.
I was very happy to get that call up.
Yay!
Being really excited about this.
Happy you agreed. Should I say stigma around men being vulnerable and open? Because I remember speaking to someone and they said a man expressing his feelings / emotions is like a man with, excuse my French, a tampon on.
I've not heard that one, but I do think it definitely stems from our cultural system, patriarchal system, men being historically the hunters in the hunter-gatherer setup, men being the providers, the protector, which is also there in spiritual scriptures and texts. So there's that pre-existing context right from when we are growing up. If you're brothers and you have sisters, or if you're boys and you're with girls, you're expected to be stronger, you're expected to cry less. If you get hurt, you're expected to recover from it.
But it hurts. So why are you stopping the crime period? It hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, and I think we should definitely be encouraged to express our emotion. We should be encouraged to articulate what we're going through. And I think culturally we should be encouraged to know that expressing vulnerability is our access to power. That authentic, powerful leaders, when they share something personal and vulnerable of their struggles, they're more actually identifiable and relatable to. So in the world of leadership coaching, we always look for people to tap into a pain point and share that, not keep that suppressed or hidden of their past. And but the background of it is that we're in this cultural society where it's been normalized that as a boy, as a man, you should be stronger, you should provide. There is some biological truth to that, but that does not mean that we can't experience pain, weakness, and that we can't communicate it.
Yeah. So, psychologically, when you actually look into it, the psychological researches that are derived from this is that any point of emotional breakaway, it's an attack on someone's pride. So it's all derived, if you look at the root of emotionless display, or the idea that men shouldn't feel emotions, it's a sense of manly pride in the sense, if you want to look at it that way, where to be strong, you must be you must have no emotion. So if you show emotion, you're showing a form of weakness, which doesn't attack the mindset of the person's emotional imbalances. It attacks their pride.
Yeah.
Because, like you were saying, in the cultural aspect, and this is found all over the world, there's been a lot of worldly researchers all over the globe. In Australia, you actually find it a lot more that people are being more open because of the because of the multitude of cultures that are actually finding themselves in Australia. But in America, and specifically, you find there's a big breakaway. And I mean, you know, we hear the Hamptons and we hear the ghetto, and you actually see the intellectual aspect of it, where in the Hamptons or in the Hampton lifestyles, where you're rich enough to actually express yourself, that's where you get people that are more open. Whereas if you live in the ghetto, things are hard, things are rough. You get told and you get taught how to shut off, because it's how the lifestyle is actually portrayed. But
they don't have that luxury too.
yeah, they don't have that luxury of just going to a therapist every now and again. So when your pride gets struck, you put that wall up and then you just carry on with your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That point when you brought up saying the Hamptons are affluent people, then the ghetto, it's each man for himself.
Yeah.
So it's like saying rich people can afford to express themselves. They should express themselves because they have money, and the ghetto people shouldn't. And that's predominantly black people in the ghetto.
Which also drives to the point of there was a research done in 2018 in, I think it was in Mississippi, in America, where they actually looked at it, where the amount of healthcare facilities that were woman-based, they were exponentially, I think it was either 70 or 80% cheaper, if not free, and men's facilities were more expensive to facilitate, or they had to be they were, what's it when you say mixed gendered,
like
communal,
co-ed
or co-ed therapy centers, and then which will then encourage men to shut down more, because when they're around ladies or around people who they feel they have to be strong for, they'll actually shut down. So you actually get less men going to those co-ed places, and it's very difficult to actually find a men's therapy center, whereas for women it's I think they said in every 3 blocks, on ratio, every 3 blocks you'll find a therapy center. Yeah, for a lady. So
for men, there's just basically nothing.
Yeah, so it's hard, and so then it drives into the point of where do you go?
Yeah,
I was about to ask
but
you
even to share to your friends that I'm going for therapy, or I'm going for I have friends and family dealing with addiction. It takes a lot, first of them, to come out of the space of denial and acknowledge they're dealing with that. It takes a lot for them to go and seek support for that, and and that is because it's not normalized. That is because even say if you're the man or the provider in a family, you're seen that way or expected to perform that way, and then you're dealing with your own personal breakdowns, whether that's around finances, whether that's around family, whether that's around intimacy in marriage, and those struggles that you're dealing with. We haven't created a conducive environment where you're encouraged to share or express what you're dealing with. And if the wife is dealing with something, if the missus is dealing with something, I think amongst women there's a lot more normalization or normalcy in sharing that struggle. There is more time, I think, that has been in the past where women engage more with each other socially, and they get to share and connect what's going on mentally, emotionally, whereas for men it's maybe we're connecting on the work front, or when we're connecting it is social, but in that social setting as well there's some form of needing to be our presence to be recognized, and we do that in some form of projecting macho-ness, right? So we actually don't get a chance there to go and express our struggles.
Do you have friends that will come up to you and say, "Oh, Ronnie, listen, I'm going through a pretty tough time and I need help"? Have you had friends that have said, "Okay, I need help, things are bad"?
Yeah.
Or do we just, as usual, put icing on the cake and just be like, "No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm going through something, but I'm fine"?
I have people who have shared what they're dealing with, or we've experienced the effect of a breakdown from what they're dealing with. I've experienced that they've not been able to vocalize why exactly they may do something that is some form of self-harm. And it might be alcohol addiction, might be drug addiction, might be other form of self-harm that becomes say anger expression in the relationship or marriage, and they've not been able to articulate that or verbalize that with me. Interestingly, I found that some of them have been able to share that not in a group setting, but say one-to-one, say with my wife. She's been able to offer a space to listen, to catch up, to hear, and there has been some kind of taboo or stigma to go from, hey, I know you as the tough guy, to now you want to emotionally break down in front of me and share something. There hasn't been that freedom of safe space for them to do so.
And you're the younger man.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have friends that do turn to alcohol instead of trying to express how they feel or talk to. Have you had friends that have come to you and said, "Oh, Jean, I'm having a tough time"?
Well, I have had people talk to me in that sense, and
or even just you, actually.
Yeah, to me, yeah. And I've had a friend that I've been able to fall onto.
Okay.
And this is actually a really good point to address now, is that my church, Kitwe Church, we are running, and we've been running for a year, this is our second year, a recovery program called Celebrate Recovery, which offers people just a chance of just coming into a small group share to just address to them. It's safe, it's quiet, you don't have anybody going and gossiping afterwards saying, oh, you know that guy, you know,
nobody
struggling
wants
with
that.
this, but he's emotional. And it works off 12 steps that produce 8 biblical principles that allow you to deal with your addictions that you are derived from having emotions. So like if you have an alcohol, if you're abusive to the alcohol because you're depressed and you just want to get it off your chest. If you do struggle with depression and you need somebody to talk to, we have leaders at this ministry that actually help and are just there to listen. It's a way of breaking through that stigma that is derived there, and we actually get a lot of men that attend that from our church.
Really?
We have more men attending Celebrate Recovery than we do have ladies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay. Well done. That's
we've
great.
been really pushing at the church to try and make it well known, especially with the church community, that this is what we have on offer. And it's slow at the moment because there still is that idea that, oh no, addictions, if you admit that you're addicted to something, you're showing you're weak. So you still struggle with that pride and that just that stigma that you have, that like Ronnie was talking about, like you're this big guy. Financially, you get a lot of people who financially or business wise will be really up at the top, and you think to himself, he's got his life in order.
Yeah.
For you to have that emotional maturity to actually just say, I'm not okay, I'm struggling with something, it is a lot harder for you to do than if you're going out with your mates or if you're in teens.
Yes.
Because, if you're at school, you can just blame an emotional breakdown on the stress of exams.
Yeah.
Whereas as a man, if you go out and if you break down because work is getting a bit hard, there comes the idea, what?
Work is hard. Oh, boo-hoo.
Oh, boo-hoo. Like, come on, we all work. There is that problem that we all face in that regard.
Yeah.
So just having the church and having Celebrate Recovery helping you overcome any addiction.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just like substance abuse, but like if you have anger problems, if you have depression problems, if you have gluttony problems, we find a lot of people will actually, in a form of creating a barrier and getting in denial about the fact that they're emotionally insecure, you'll find that they'll drive themselves and they'll really push themselves when they feel that insecurity and how they feel. They will push a different area of their life, be it alcoholism, a big wall that a lot of men face. And statistically, this is, I think it's like a 6-to-1 on the ratio between men to women, where when they feel depressed or anything, they actually turn to anger. They put that barrier up and they say, nothing can hurt me if I'm angry, because I'll be the one inflicting the pain.
Oh.
Which is something that, is a big problem.
Yeah.
And The issue is that you get a lot of people who find that's fine because it buries that depression or that negative feeling or the weakness under that pot plant of anger, where it's like this big giant tree with a lot of thistles and a lot of negative bearing fruits, but you look at it and you're like, this is what I want, this is the tree that I want, whereas that it's all derived off a negative thing, and it's going to wither, it's going to die, or it's going to go out of control, which is an issue.
It's interesting to know that that's an offering with Kittery Church, because there are people I know struggling, and we haven't found resource to support them. So it's good to know that's there.
And the funny thing is that with that, whoever I've talked to, it's going to be that whole thing, I don't struggle with this, but I know a lot of people who do. Because, like I said, with the whole thing about men's emotional imbalance and emotional breakdown, it's all pride.
Yeah, that's true. Pride.
A lot of people don't want to admit it, but they're too prideful in their upbringing and in their upstanding to just say, I need to take a knee. You will always want to face the world with your feet enlarged and say, I'm going to take this head on.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to take that knee down and actually break down. But a lot of people are either too scared to let everything out, because they will look weak. There will be this idea, men don't cry.
Yes.
That's something that I've been thrown at in my entire life. Sadly, when I was at school, I was bullied quite badly, and then I was actually sexually assaulted as well. And approaching people in my life that I've talked to about that. Yeah. And I'd be breaking down, and the tears would be there. They'd wipe it and say, "You can talk about it, but don't cry. Boys don't cry. Men don't cry."
That's something that we need to change. The whole man up concept. Man up. Because I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday, saying, "So are you going to tell your son to man up when because he's getting older? He's growing, and he's going to come into spaces with people who will have different opinions from him, and he'll come into contact with probably people that will bully him and everything. So you're going to tell him to man up, boys don't cry, suck it up, and just fight back." This whole man up thing, I don't agree with it.
Okay.
I do not agree with it, especially because there's so many suicides going on. Men don't have a safe space, and you have men that are opting to, I would rather just end my life than face.
So the origin of the terminology man up is actually a form of endurance and courage. So if you look at the original description and the original definition of what it actually stands for, it stands for just a simple phrase to encourage you to be strong, to face what you're coming on with integrity, with courage, and with the idea that even if you're alone, that you can handle this. So it's a form of, it's like you going at the gym and just going, one more rep, you got this. That's where it actually came from. However, over the years, with it being taken out of context, it's got this toxicity, and it promotes this toxic masculinity, which actually forces you to have this idea of, with toxic masculinity, let me just branch on that for a bit. It's been boiled down and it's been researched into three typical areas in men. Emotional abuse to yourself, where it is, I need to man up. And you look at yourself in the mirror and you just go, why are you crying? Why you're feeling this? You are weak, you are useless. Those emotional terminologies which is actually abusive to yourself. That's actually what drives and breaks you down mentally to the point of just the instant shutdown. There comes the idea of anti-feminism with toxic masculinity, where it is, emotions are a woman thing. I'm not a woman. I don't need this. I don't need your tissues. I don't need any of this. I'm not weak like a woman. So it promotes anti-feminism, where it's the idea, like you were talking about beforehand, and I'd actually like to hear more about the group that you're talking about, the Man Up, which is led by ladies, which will also talk about the feminism on it. But then also the third thing, it's a power control, where it is, I can't control how you hurt me, but how I can control is how I take it. And what's the problem with that, and why I'd say it's actually a toxic trait, whereas it's a good lifestyle to have. Whereas
that's toxic? Really?
I'll get there. It's a good lifestyle to have. I can't control what you do. But the reason it becomes toxic is that, like I was saying about the anger, where it's like, I can't control that you make me sad. But what I can control is how angry I get at how you treat me.
Okay.
Because, you know...
It's a self-sabotage.
It's a self-sabotage because, you know, it's humbling. It's... I'm going to say humbling, not humiliating, because there's a very big change in this. When you understand it, it's humbling and it's very emotionally mature to look at somebody hurting you and go, I'm sorry you're in pain, I forgive you for what you've done, and I hope I can help you. Whereas with the toxicity that you have in this idea is that you find that as a humiliation. You let that person hurt you, so you're weak. That's how it comes across. So the problem is, and that's why I say it's actually toxic to have that idea of it, is that you get this mindset with the term man up, where in the past and where it's from is a term of, I'm going to help you by encouraging you, to this thing of, you're weak, man up. So instead of saying man up as in man, male, it came from the term of humanity, mankind, where it's man up. So take that step out, be yourself, take the challenge that you have head on and move forward. Whereas over the years, it would only be derived to men because, as you were saying, like religiously and throughout the past and culturally, it's the men who need to make the changes. Like it says, like it's typical one that's in the houses of today. There's a rat in the house. Who's the one who has to go pick it up?
And definitely not me.
The men, the fathers, the fathers or the elder son.
Yeah.
They're the ones who have to go and fix the problem. So what we've done as a human race is taken that term and said man up to being, you're not man enough, do better. So it's gone from being a term of endearment to a term of degradation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. You're raising sons.
Yeah.
How are you going to do things differently?
Yeah, well...
What steps are you taking?
Firstly, the term man up, really, I think, very much aligned, first of all, with John's saying, but also when it's used and how it's said, the context is really critical. And you can use man up in a diminishing manner that taunts somebody, and you can use man up in a really encouraging manner that has somebody believe in themselves to transform a setback that they're dealing with. And being a parent and having kids, we always have this theoretical view around how our kids will be before you have kids. And then you have kids and they have a brain of their own, they have emotions of their own, they have traits of their own, they have nature of their own. You see somebody's more predisposed to being rough and getting injured and picking himself up, and others who fall down and immediately need you to be there to support them.
Yes.
Now, I think it's got nothing to do with gender, because even if I had a daughter, I would probably have the same sort of conversation.
Okay.
In that, if I am saying man up, or if I'm using a term that's similar to man up, the context really matters. If I were to say something of that sort, I will really look at a child who's injured, and now I also coach a lot of youth in football, right? And I can see where somebody's injured. So first of all, you really want to check in with the person, where they are physically, emotionally, mentally, acknowledge if they've got a particular setback. But there's a very fine line, and it requires a little bit of relatedness with the person that you're speaking to understand the distinction between, hey, I'm hurt and I'm getting physical or emotional pain and I'm expressing that. That's one thing to distinguish, versus what tends to happen with all human beings, whether a young boy or a young girl, is I've learned that if I cry and play the victim game, I can get what I want. And it takes something as a parent to really learn to distinguish between the two. To know where somebody is now being unconsciously coached or conditioned to say, hey, if you cry, if you do this, you'll get the toy you want. You'll get to not go to school today, you'll get to watch TV. And you have to really be able to distinguish that. But it does require some relatedness with the person that we're speaking to. And so I have had conversations with my children, which is, hey, when you're hurt, when you're sad about something, we want to hear it. You should fully express that. What doesn't work is anytime you don't get something you want, you're attached to an outcome and you didn't get that outcome, it doesn't work for you to use I'm stroppy, I'm crying, I'm hurt, so that dad or mum or teacher will come and bail you out from that, or give you a day off from what you're committed to doing. And so I really want them to distinguish that they've got that free way to express pain, emotional setback, see how we can do something differently, and sort of get into a coaching conversation around transforming that, but not get conditioned into crap always happens to me. Because I truly believe there's power in words.
Yes.
I truly believe that as a child, and I see this, that from when they're born up till the age of about 7 or 8, they're really forming their identity.
Yeah.
And they tend to get into spaces where their character quite solidifies, gets molded, just before 10. And we as we coach on leadership, there are 4 tiers of leadership we coach people on, which is, the first one is life is happening to me. That's the victim mode. The second tier is where you move from life is happening to me to hang on, that's happening for me.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the lesson I can get from there, and flip my narrative on it to actually, that setback happened for me. To strengthen, to toughen up, to seek leverage support, to come out of that, to bring a solution to it. The third one is life is happening through me. Right? This is where you find that you can be a conduit to empower and uplift others. Like, hey, I got put in this position, or I'm back in Zambia and I have an opportunity to make a difference to youth in Zambia. Right? That's happening through me. So I have to apply myself as a vessel or vehicle or tool for a particular mission, or God, if you want to call it, to fulfill on something. And life is happening as me is where you've established a brand, you're a leader in society, that on your name, people aligned with your values step up to certain things. And it's using those 4 tiers is where I assess who I'm dealing with to see where they are. And I wouldn't want them to be in the victim state.
Yeah.
And I would want them to empower themselves to come out of that state.
Yeah. So the term, when people say you don't want to raise sons that are soft, whenever I hear that term soft, emotion, I don't agree with it. I hear it a lot, especially in basketball, because my husband is such a huge basketball fan. He says, the game now is soft. They're paying more attention to emotions. This one fell and everyone's rushing over to him. Are you okay? You okay? Make it. I'm like, but this is a human being. Yeah. Like, is he not allowed to? Okay, listen, it hurts. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to express that it hurts, but then they just want you to get up and, I'm okay. Rub some dirt in it and keep going. Yeah. So the soft, that whole men are not supposed to be soft, and just people are raising soft men. Yeah. This generation is soft. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that would apply to whether it's boys or girls.
Boys.
But yes. I'm saying whether it's boys or girls. As much as I would say I want kids to embrace adversity. Earlier we were talking about cold showers. Part of the psychological science behind that is if you start your day overcoming some form of adversity, you create this dopamine and adrenaline spike to empower you to fulfill on the productive needs of the day, the tasks of the day. Similar with any other setback that we have in life, whether you get knocked in sport, whether some setback in your school grade or results, whether you're expelled or suspended from school because of some disciplinary action. We want them to have characters that first of all take responsibility for their wrongdoing or their setback or their pain, but then also take responsibility to come up with a solution to turn that around. Okay. And that does not mean that they're on their own to deal with that. They can leverage parents, they can leverage friends, they can leverage teachers to support them to come out of that particular rut. So in that sense, I wouldn't want them to be soft if it keeps keeping them there or encourages staying down. Okay. I would want them to be hard or toughen up to come out of that. And same too if I had a daughter, right? Because I want my role is to make my daughter powerful, to be able to be independent in the world and post-independent, to learn to leverage what's called interdependence. So how do we leverage community and support structure so you're not a sole operator, right? That's not what we want. We want to encourage sharing, asking for contribution, being open to being contributed to, but that also requires strength and character to be able to ask for support or ask being contributed to.
I see your social media pages, both of you. You're into traveling, your family, your fitness videos, your wellness. How do you guys also have your outlets when you need to just?
For me, I have to be honest. It's my sessions in the gym when I have
Really?
my own session. So you know, I know you speak about this as well. So this is going to be like stuck record play for you, and you've been in the fitness world yourself, so you understand it. That there is this psychological benefit to training. It's not just something that we just go, oh no, you should train, it makes you feel better. What it actually is that when you have a high intensity level for about 15 minutes, this is why if you're into running, you should run for a minimum of 15 minutes. Don't look for a kilometer goal. You should, when you're starting up, look for a time goal. Run for a minimum of 15 minutes, because your body has like this reset button. That once you hit a 15-minute of intensity mark, your pituitary gland then gets a reset, which releases dopamine, serotonin. I always forget the stress one. It starts with a C. Cortisol. Cortisol. So what happens is that if you're having a rough day, your dopamine and your serotonin are low, and your cortisol is high. So when you exercise, what happens is once you hit that level, or we also call it the second wind. Once you break into your second wind, the pituitary gland then releases a lot of serotonin and dopamine, which will then rebalance everything. And then also, because the serotonin is like a catalyst to the cortisol, it then it drops the serotonin and the cortisol and brings dopamine high. That's why you find people at the end of the sessions, they could be tired, they could be absolutely finished. It was a hard session, dying, but you'll see them with a smile on their face, because the dopamine levels are really high at that moment. And that's my outlet. If I'm struggling, if I'm angry, if I'm stressed, if there's just something on my mind, for me personally, there's nothing better than just picking up a weight and throwing it around. But at the same time, I also have Celebrate Recovery, which I was talking on. So on Friday, it's more of an intellectual outlet. So I have the physical outlet, and then I have the intellectual outlet. And also, it's talked about, but I don't think it's stressed enough of. We talk about it a lot, but it doesn't have as much of, I want to say, meat behind the words when we say you need to have an outlet. Take an afternoon to go and do something. Get out of your space that you're constantly living in and doing something different.
But a lot of people argue and say, you just said take time for yourself and do something. A lot of people say, but men do that all the time anyway. So
do we?
Yeah, you do.
When?
I don't think we do. When do we have that time for ourselves?
You do that all the time. Well, the people, the couple of people I've spoken to, the people that I know, do take that time. They after work they'll go to some place and.
But they won't be on their own. They will go to a pub. They will go and meet up with mates.
That's time. But that's time for them. That's
so when I say take time, what I mean is break out of your cycle. So you'll normally it becomes a cycle. You think that when you start off and you're like, okay, let me make some time for myself. You go out with some friends. That's breaking away from your life cycle. That's breaking. So you start off that way, and it's a good break. So you're like, oh no, this is really good for me. So let me carry on doing it. But then over time, when you do it, it just joins into the routine. So then you break out of your routine and do something else. That's why you need to keep a very versatile, be open about change, and actually doing something different. And this is not just for men, this is for everyone, even for your kids and stuff. I remember growing up, I used to go to Mandola Dam and race bikes every Saturday afternoon. When I started doing it, it was fun. The whole family would go. It was just something that we loved doing. 2 years in, it's just like, okay, let's get this done, and then we would go and find something else to do afterwards.
Let's go get this done.
That's mostly about and a lot of men don't want to say it because they don't want to offend their friends or anything, but when you go to the pub every Thursday night, or you go play football, or you go do something with your mates every Thursday, I'm just saying Thursday as a random day, there comes a time where you'll be in your car and you get to the location, or you're preparing to walk, or preparing how you get there, and you just I don't
Here we
actually want
go.
to see this person today, but I got to do it because I got to keep appearance.
Yeah.
And so it becomes one of your routines that you have to do, which then breaks out of the idea that you need to do something else for yourself.
And you, Mister?
Well, firstly, like you say, when you looked at both of us on social media, and we're in fitness,
Yes,
and we
you travel.
and in my case, I do a lot.
This
of
man has.
mindfulness
How
stuff.
many times have you climbed Kilimanjaro? Like 100. 100.
Nine. So I'm going for
Nine
number 10
times.
now. In
Oh my God! Wait,
exactly
what's
6
your
weeks from
goal
today.
here? How many times do you want
my
to?
goal was to take 100 people to summit,
Okay,
and we're at about 81.
you're almost
So,
there.
81 or 91. So we'll. You're welcome to be number 100. You can join us on this one. It's in 6 weeks' time.
Oh, Lord Jesus!
but
I
yeah,
hear it is quite taxing.
It is hard. It requires you very early on in day 1 to you reach what you think is the boundary of your physical strength. Then you need to tap into your emotional and your mental strength.
Yeah.
And that's when you really realize what will keep you going. But when you say like what's the outlet, first of all, I think a commonality where you have both of us here as you might call big buff fitness guys, and this should really speak to so many people out there, is that the origin of us maybe being big and buff is that we have a childhood of there was some kind of trauma experience we went through, and it's a response to that to be somehow to protect ourselves. Like he referenced bullying. I've gone through some form of bullying, but also just that chronic fear or phobia of I'm about to be struck, or something's going to happen in school. So that's where if you look at the tiers of leadership, life happened to me. I could stay there and play that narrative of, hey, I've had
Woe is me, yeah.
an unfortunate upbringing, or I can say because of that upbringing, it made me go to the gym. It made me develop my muscles. It made me try to create some form of intimidation or recognition from size, from strength, from some form of performance. So first of all, it's interesting just to note that many people that you think have it confident or have it strong out there stems from repair work done to earlier childhood internal trauma.
Okay.
The outlet to me, two things come to mind is daily. I try to practice daily, and I've not been doing it as frequently of late. Is daily meditation, and just 5 minutes to 10 minutes. I spend my time normally. I'd zone out with some music, and I really look at and introspect with what I'm going through in the week or in the day, or some big decisions to be made. So regular meditating practices is what I do. Second one for me is the mountain. When I go in the mountains, I do take people with me, but all clients will note this, there are moments on the mountain, generally the day after summit, because up to summit we're really focusing on getting everyone there, and once everyone's kind of out of danger zone and back in safety, normally on the way down, on most mountains, did it in Morocco recently, went up Atlas Mountains, Kilimanjaro, I love to find a quiet rock somewhere to escape, and there I meditate a lot more longer.
Yeah.
And it really allows me to sort of reflect on how the year's gone, look at what we've accomplished, practice gratitude for, in our case, people's safety on the mountain. But that's one of the few moments that I actually get alone time. Because nowadays, even when we're alone,
we're not really
we're
alone.
not alone, especially with social media.
No.
The moment you're free, you're there seeing what's
Yep.
happening, or messaging whoever, or getting on a call when we're free. So we're not, when you say we have our own time, we don't if we don't have it diarized. If we
Yeah.
don't schedule in 5 to 10 minutes,
But why do we have to
Of
have
me
it
time.
diarized though?
as in
Like-
you've got to create a routine
Yeah.
to contribute to your mental well-being.
Okay.
Because if we don't have it as a non-negotiable practice in the day or the week, you'll find that our whole day goes as a reaction to everything else. You wake up in the morning and there's no power. You wake up in the morning and kids kicked off a tantrum. You wake up in the morning and there's some breakdown going on in the house.
Yeah.
You're just reacting, and you're on repair mode after that, recovering your day, trying to recoup your time,
Yeah.
because it's impacted your diary. But if you have it, ideally start of the day, it's one of those things you start as your morning routine before you get into the day. But you're a lot more emotionally, mentally, spiritually robust before you engage in the day.
I agree with that. That whole take time out for yourself, just that quiet, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I agree with that one.
But I
Yeah.
do agree with him when you write it down.
When you write,
when
you know,
put
I
it
find
into
that
your
so
trigger.
difficult to do.
It is difficult, and I can tell you why it's difficult for you to write it down. Because as you want to set at that hour or two, even it doesn't even have to be an hour, but let's say 30 minutes, just for time's sake, for you to write down and say, this 30 minutes is for me. In the back of your mind, you're like, oh, but I need to go to the grocery store. This is time I could do. You know, what if my friends need me? I can't dedicate. That's very selfish of me. Where it's selfless in the idea that you're benefiting yourself. So it's hard for you to write it down because in the back of your mind, everything that you want to do or achieve is back there saying, but you can't do this because. So the minute you write it down, you've made yourself accountable. This hour or this 30 minutes, no one can touch. And that's hard for you because if someone tells you that, because I don't know if you struggle with this, but I struggle with it a lot, where it's just someone talks to me, hey, can we meet up? Yeah, no, I'm free. And then you see that 1 hour starts, you're like, I can sacrifice it this week. No, I can meet you this time. And then at the end, when you're done with it, you just feel emotionally drained. You're like, I don't understand why. And you put 2 and 2 together and you find, oh, I didn't have my time. Because you gave it away. And that's why it's hard to write it down and then stick to it.
I just thought it was like a lack of discipline or something.
It can be like
can
that.
be, yeah.
It can be.
Yeah, it's interesting to say because you can have meetings, you can get on conversations, you can even be part of WhatsApp groups where you get emotionally drained, and and there are people in our life who, especially those closest to us, they know exactly where our buttons are. And I'll tell you a real struggle for men, especially if you're a Instagram influencer, a leader, a coach, where you're seen that way, is people expect some kind of, you've got it sorted.
Yeah, I'm not expecting you to break down. I'll be like, excuse me, Mr. Fit Banker, you can't break down.
Exactly.
You have everything together.
It's so funny. I was, in December, I had this near-death experience. I was really unwell and someone came to me by the bedside and said, you're not supposed to be unwell. You're Mr. Fit Banker, right? And I'm like, hang on, I still got the human
I'm
body.
human.
but going to like right now social media conversations, very close people that we're close to.
Yeah.
There are people who their relationship to you over time has been formed in such a way that we might be doing things, seeking their acknowledgement, or at least not expecting criticism, and it regularly comes and it drains you, and we have a response to that. It's a human response to survive a situation. It might be anger, it might be that you exit a group, it might be that you feel sad or depressed, but because you're a coach or a leadership expert, they're like, hang on, but you preach on tolerance, you preach on forgiveness, you preach on this, why the hell are you doing XYZ? But we also preach on being human. We also preach on being connected to your humanity. And I'm not here, and I don't think anybody, even the Pope will have his own struggles. A monk will have their own struggles, right? Many are going in that direction because, first of all, they have awareness that they have certain struggles to work on. Right? So I think there's a lot of, I want to say, use the term here, masculine toxicity amongst our mates groups, where when you're struggling with something, right, there's a lot of, at least in my circles, taunt, abuse, diminishing speech that really pounds you, and they make mockery and humor out of it for struggling with something, for getting angry, for leaving a group. And actually we should allow people to be that, to go out, to deal with themselves, and when they strengthen themselves and they're ready to have a conversation, they can. And I used to really struggle with leaving groups or blocking people because I thought, oh man, that's not what I say on social media, that's not what I encourage. But I really realized how it was causing, the anger was internally poisonous to me, and it was impacting my well-being, it was impacting my mental health, and acknowledging that, hey, I've not yet transformed my relationship with that person. I regularly get triggered by that person, and I know I'm still struggling with it, and I need to turn it around. But for now, I'm sorry, we can't be having conversations. And you have your 6-month window, 1-year window to work on yourself, to turn that relationship around, right, before you're ready to re-engage and not be a response to those triggers.
So
A word.
like you were saying about him being Mr. Fit Banker and all of that, you can't get sick and stuff.
Yeah, just like when you get, well, look what John's sick now.
Yeah,
Muscular
so
junction.
what actually happens to me is because I do get sick quite
Yeah,
often.
yeah.
My dad's the worst at it, where he just goes, "You live a healthy life. You don't smoke. You don't drink. You get sick all the time. I smoke, and I'm never sick. Maybe smoking's the best thing." And then I look at it and I'm like, actually, no. I can tell you exactly why I'm getting sick. With the job that I do, I'm always interacting with people.
Yeah.
So one, I'm exposed. We're always exposed to people, which with whatever they're carrying. But the one that I want to address on now is that the more people you're exposed to in a day, not even a week, the more people you're exposed to in a day, the more drained you get. The more drained you are, the lower your immunity system comes down. So if you see 20 people in a day and you have to see them even for half an hour, for half an hour you need to dedicate yourself. It's tiring.
Basically, you'll be peopled out
You're
by the end
peopled
of the
out.
week. Yeah.
And then, although it's a social health,
Yeah.
all of your health, your mental health, your physical health, your social health, all of them are interconnected. So if you're physically drained, and you were talking about it when you get to Kilimanjaro, day 1 or 2, you're physically drained.
Yeah.
Your body will then impact and just go, right, mental health, that we got to keep going, and that's actually what happens on a daily basis, where there will come a time where it's for me every day at about, I want to say about 5 p.m. Work from 5 a.m. By 5 p.m. I'm
Done.
ticketed. I'm
Yeah.
done. Where I try to be this bubbly person because I'm very open. I'm very happy. I'm very loud. I'm eccentric. I'm out there. By 5 o'clock, I just, even if it's just half an hour between clients, where I just sit in the office, or I sit in my car, and I just break, and I just slow down, break everything down, take a breather, and carry on again. Because you do, and there's a lot of things that, and it's not just my line of work. You get a lot of people who do similar jobs as what we do, where somebody who has a basic 9 to 5 living in an office and stuff like that, where you see 2 people a day, the idea of seeing more people, it's like, what? Nah, like, how does that make you tired?
No.
No, you're insane.
Yes.
That's not what.
But
so,
I understand that concept.
You take it and you take it into that perspective where it's just like, I don't know what he's going through in a day. I don't know what he does. And that's where that toxic masculinity comes in, where it's like, okay, you need to man up now. Not knowing the full picture of what that person's going through. Because obviously you know what's best, because that's how you're emotionally charged. So when you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, you need to have a day off, your clients are going to be like, yeah, well, I'm feeling fine. Cool, I'm glad you are. I'm not. I do need to take some time for myself. And they're, I've had this client who's just like, oh, can't you just make an exception? Come in for me. Now, if I make a connection for them,
you have to make an exception for everybody else.
So then a day off turns into a full day regardless. So yeah, that's just how it is.
Oh,
And like you're saying, you can't. You promote all of this, and the reason I brought up my dad is that we promote general health.
Yeah.
And a better, more active lifestyle, which is healthy for you. And trainers are just like doctors, the most sick, the most tired, and the most drained. And you look at it and you're like, if you're like that, what are you trying to base us to a lie?
That's true.
Whereas it's just
Yeah.
what I've done
the
for
truth.
you, I've done for like 20 other people today.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves, and I was talking to another trainer at the gym I'm affiliated with, where he's been in the industry for about 20 years. Lukundo, 15, 20 years?
Probably 20 years, yeah.
Probably 20 years. And him and I were chatting about it, and I agreed with him when he said this. The life of a trainer, the life of somebody who is in the emotional aspect of a person's life. Yes, fitness is in the physical, but there's an emotional connection to it.
Yep.
Your life becomes so derived on the lifestyles of others that you forget how to live your own life. So we've been discussing it, Tim and I, and we've been trying to find a way on how to outlet it for the trainers, where it's just, if you have a day off, if it's a public holiday, what do? You don't think 2 days in advance on a public holiday, because you're busy thinking to yourself, okay, it's a public holiday, which means these clients are going to be free, which means that they will want a session, so I can't actually get myself a client because they're going to want this.
Yeah.
So you live a very lonely life around a life of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Whereas you need to be so emotionally down. You need to shut your emotions down, because you can't bring your own emotions into somebody else's client, somebody else's session.
Yeah, you're surrounded by
That's true.
people, but you're lonely.
You're very alone.
We have to wrap up quickly. Words of for the men out there who are watching you guys and saying, "Oh, okay, you've spoken a lot of sense today." Words of maybe just to let them know you're not alone. It's okay for men to feel emotion. You don't have a tampon on.
I think the biggest one that I tell myself and my friends is, emotion is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Yes.
Being emotionally intricate and emotionally based is actually a bigger sign of maturity, because you are connected to yourself in ways that you cannot be taught. You talked about it, the stem of trauma.
Yeah.
Your trauma that you go through is a foundation block. And you talked about it, the stages of leadership.
Yeah.
You can live a lifestyle and you can be horrible. You can be the worst person on the planet because somebody treated you horribly when you were a kid.
Yes, that's true.
The maturity level of it is expressing yourself and go, this hurt me.
That's true.
But it is okay. And looking a great way, and for the men out there, because ladies do it as well, but I've found over the years, I work at a school, at my mom's school and stuff. The boys are very visual. They want a role model. So with the previous generation, I'm going to say it that way, very hardy. They went through the world wars, very emotionally distrained. So our fathers then took that emotion, because that's how they've been portrayed.
Yes.
So they try and portray it on us, not portray it.
Portray, yeah.
So one of the key things to break out of there is, emotions are not a curse. Emotions are actually a gift. Okay, I'm a Christian, so I look at the Bible, and you look at your all-powerful, mighty God, the deity that you that you rely on and stuff like that. Jesus wept, Jesus cried, Jesus got angry, Jesus actually was in a depressive state. You look at the Bible, you had Jonah who wanted to kill himself, you had Elijah who got so tired and needed a sleep that he actually felt depressed and suicidal, but God was there. For me, emotions are a gift from God. So to deny them is actually harmful to yourself, and that's where we get that idea of man up. So just be strong enough to face your emotions, not weak enough to feel them. That's where for me the key change comes from. It's not a weakness to feel emotions, it's a strength to portray them.
Ooh. Ladies, he is single. Come on. Who is aware of his emotions, by the way? Wow. Damn. Okay then, Jean. Dropping gems on you. Okay then.
Awesome. I'd like to say, for any men that are dealing with or struggling with some form of mental well-being struggle, emotional setback, trauma, self-sabotage, the starting point to transform anything is awareness. And the starting of that awareness is we really want to write down and articulate, these are the repetitive, recurring habits that I do that are harming me or harming my loved ones. Really articulate and note them down, but note down the impact it's having, which is the impact it's having is that my partner, my wife, my kids aren't free to express themselves around me when I'm in that state, or I'm struggling with something with the busyness of my business or the struggles of my business or my work, and my outlet is this one jug of beer when I come home or whatever it is. Really articulate and bring awareness to it without judging yourself, without making yourself wrong. But then also note the impact and who that impact is on. The next tier about that is also learning more about yourself and learning what I want to call each person. We have our strengths, we have our natural areas that we thrive in, but we also have, like a double-edged sword, a dark side. We also have our weaknesses, we also have our coping mechanisms that we've formed around the areas of ourself that we have struggled to own. And we want to start to own them. It could be a bad habit you do, it could be some past act you've done that you've not forgiven yourself for, it could be anything in the area normally of one of the senses: sexual pleasure, alcohol, food, comfort eating, smokes, drugs, whatever it may be. There's something that you developed in our early years which still till today we think and identify as part of us, but it's not part of us, it's a habit that we turn to. Just acknowledge it without castigating yourself for it. And thirdly, I would say is I annually participate, and I recommend in participating in some form of learning, personal growth, professional growth, or spiritual growth. And you can't transform your mindset with the same mindset that created it. So you can't alter your state of mind by yourself. You have to immerse yourself amongst minds that you aspire to be like. So whether that's a religious organization, have a Christian family camp, go participate in that. Whether you are aligned with the Vedas or something with the church or the mosque or the temple, go and participate in a program there. Or it could just be a personal development program, right? There are Facebook groups today, there are info webinars online that you can connect with people globally that you identify with and you aspire to be like. Pick from those minds and practice being okay with saying, hey, I'd like to share, or I'd like to get on a call and share some of the things I'm struggling with. Or have you got any advice? You can ask somebody that you might not feel as related to, connect with them on social media. Have you got any advice for somebody dealing with or struggling with depression, addiction, this, that, the other? If they're a mentor and leader in the space, they will see that, hey, maybe you're the one that needs to be contributed to, and you could get into a deeper conversation. But staying the same maintains the status quo. Leveraging and asking for help, being contributed to, is a demonstration of strength. And so that would be the third option I'd ask you to take part in.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming through, discussing mental health. June is Men's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you so much for coming through, gentlemen. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and don't forget to comment. He's got blue eyes. Single.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.